Tech Yeah Podcast.
That's pretty good.
Welcome to Tech Yeah After Dark.
Okay, it's a late night. It's a late night show today.
We're doing this remote.
We're doing this real late. I'm gonna be up late editing this. It's gonna be a real.
Dude, be honest, man. Any adult beverages?
No, actually, You know what's funny? It's like this kind of happened last week. I was saying I drank on Saturday and felt terrible. Didn't want to drink on Sunday. Exact same thing today.
Did you do it again, yesterday. Dude? I'm noticing a pattern.
Yeah, I think Saturdays are kind of my let's have some cocktails day. I had actually a very eventful weekend. But first, tell me about yours, Bill.
I did some flying this weekend, which was really nice. I
saw a photo. Did you night fly, bro?
I night flew on Thursday.
Okay.
And yeah, which was unbelievable. It was kind of we double dipped a little bit. So part of the private pilot requirements is you need 3 hours of night flying, which I don't think is enough. But there's 3 hours required, and then 3 hours of what they call instrument time or hood time. And you literally put on glasses that block out the outside view. So it forces you to just fly with instruments, and your CFI says, fly that way. Okay, now fly this way. With like a heading or whatever. So I was able to look up twice, and the 2 times that I looked up, I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome looking. Like the full moon was out, and there was a cloud layer below us, and the clouds were lit up from the lights of the city behind under it. It was so gorgeous looking. I saw
one picture. It looked really nice.
Yeah, it's super cool looking, but I couldn't see it for like the entire flight because I was underneath the hood. So the purpose of the flight was to not look outside.
That's some real bullshit, if you ask me.
Dude, it's some real bullshit. Oh, it was so fun though. And then I was able to fit in a little bit shorter of a flight yesterday, which was really nice. And we just kind of were local. Rancho Santa Margarita practice area, literally just flew in circles and then came back and did some landings.
That's cool. What else did you do this weekend? Anything exciting?
Was able to
more flying. It seems like.
Yeah, flying was kind of the highlight, but today we were out all day in the little Alpha, so I got that cleaned up, and it was, one of the nicest days we've had in months. At least one of the nicest weekend days we've had.
Yeah, it was really nice, actually.
Super nice. So we just kind of, blasted around the coast and just had a fun time cruising around.
That's cool.
It was pretty nice. So tell me your crazy Tone Zone weekend.
It wasn't like that crazy. It was just it was very eventful. Like Friday night, I went to a comedy show. I met a friend. We went and saw Iliza Shlesinger. You know who that is? She has like a Netflix special. Blonde girl.
Not by name. What, first name was Iliza, you said?
Iliza Shlesinger. It was funny. It was a really good show, actually. I like comedy shows in general. They're always fun. Like, I feel like comedy shows are as fun as like you're willing to have at them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And this was a good show. So we had dinner and did that, but that's drinks at dinner, and then you got your 2-drink minimum at the club. So you're having some cocktails at a comedy show. And then yesterday
she's the cute little blonde.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, that's a fun.
She's a cute little blonde. It's actually funny. One of her openers was this. God, I can't remember her name, but she was great, and she was this brunette, this dark-haired girl, and she was a former stripper, and she was like super cute, and had just super raunchy stripper cocaine jokes, and it was hilarious. Like, she crushed it. It was so funny. Yeah, it was great. But yesterday I had one of my really good friends is pregnant right now, and she lives in San Francisco, and so some of her friends and her came down to LA for the weekend to like just kind of like eat and stuff, you know what I mean? Like have like, they didn't want to do a baby shower, so they kind of got a hotel room and did whatever, and so they stayed at the SLS, which was really nice. But we ended up kind of floating around yesterday. I ended up driving them all over the place, and just ate a lot and went out to Koreatown last night, and She obviously wasn't drinking, but the rest of us had some cocktails, and
That's
it
the
was just
best
a
part
long
about
night.
having somebody pregnant around is you always have a designated driver.
Yeah, for sure. But it was a lot.
Awesome.
We were all over town, mostly eating, but also drinking, and we actually ended up we ended at Milk Bar and eating ice cream and cake at 11 o'clock at night. It was one of those nights, but. It was fun. Today was pretty uneventful though, and but it was nice. It's nice having like tourists in town to do touristy things because it's so hard to like motivate yourself to do that when people aren't here,
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
and
no,
LA's
that's
so
true.
fun. It's so fun when like there's a reason to go do all those things and get all over the city.
Yeah,
But
and you're right. It is really hard to have a reason if nobody's visiting because it can be such a pain in the ass.
yeah, it reminds me how much like how cool LA is, right? To like be down in Beverly Hills and everyone's all dressed up with fancy cars and fancy hotels and you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and then go to like Koreatown and it's all ethnic and cool and like just be in all these different places and see kind of all these sides of the city that you kind of avoid when you're just at home for the weekend doing laundry,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, I know.
um,
Seriously.
but yeah, that was pretty much it. Otherwise, it's been a pretty, I don't want to call it a slow tech news weekend, or at least week, but not a super exciting tech news week. Like there's no real like stories I felt that were super captivating. I mean, just some more
Just a
Facebook
couple,
bullshit.
Yeah, some more Facebook bullshit. Yeah, they're just kind of like there's been a few little stories here and there. I mean, I think it's probably as much a factor of or function of it being slow tech news and really busy regular news.
Yeah, that's probably very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even want to get into the regular news of the week.
No. No, this is where you come to escape the regular news. Hopefully
Yeah,
we've kind of we've gotten into it a little bit too much recently, but yeah, we'll steer clear.
So the first thing I want to talk about actually came from Alec in our chat, and if you haven't, you feel free to join our Discord. I'll put the links on our Facebook, or you can find them on our Twitter, and I'll put it on the YouTube version of this video too. And that's Tech Yeah Podcast for all those, and it's about Volvo. All right, this is from Car and Driver.
Very sensible Swedish automobile manufacturer.
Very sensible. This is Daniel Golson from Car and Driver. And let me find this little synopsis. Title story is every Volvo will get in-car cameras to combat distraction and drunk driving. The brand says human behaviors are the most pressing current safety issue, namely speeding, distraction, and intoxication. Let's read some of this article. Back in 2007, Volvo announced its Vision 2020 plan, the goal of which was to have zero fatalities or serious injuries in Volvo cars. The company has steadily been working to achieve the Vision plan with new safety features and assistance systems coming out every year. Chief among them, Volvo's Pilot Assist suite of semi-autonomous features. According to Volvo, the largest safety issue that automakers now face is that of human behavior. Going even further, it splits up behavior into three problem areas: speeding, intoxication, and distraction. Volvo already has taken a step towards solving the speed problem with recent announcements that it will be fitting a 112 mile per hour speed limiter into its cars. This week in Sweden, Gothenburg, Sweden, at what is called the Safety Moment Conference, Volvo detailed its plan to tackle the two other behaviors, with the biggest new innovation being the addition of driver-facing cameras to the interior of its upcoming cars, something they've been working on for a while. These in-cameras will be standard in every Volvo in early 2020. Let's see. Let me see. Let me try to find the part where it talks about how it's going to ruin your life. The camera system will monitor driver for both intoxication and a distraction, with slightly different solutions for each problem. The car will tell if a driver is too drowsy, drunk, or under the influence of drugs, and warn a driver not to operate the vehicle. If the person starts driving anyway, the car detects dangerous driving. The car will take additional measures to take control and stop. That's pretty much the gist of it. I mean, there's quotes and stuff in here, but basically, it's gonna see if you're unfit to drive based on its standard, it will tell you, and if you continue to try and drive poorly, it will stop the vehicle. Bill, what do you think about this?
I really like Volvo.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, like a lot of the technologies that we talk about, where right now it seems crazy, but when you look at similar technologies and the early adoption phase of them, people thought those things were crazy too. So I think with Volvo especially, they're obsessed with safety. They it was 1959 that they invented the 3-point harness, the 3-point seatbelt, and they didn't patent that. I should say they didn't patent. They did patent it, but it was an open patent, so anybody can use it that wanted to use it. And now, obviously, it's against the law to not drive with a seatbelt. And I'm sure, a lot of our parents and grandparents came from a time where they either didn't have seatbelts, or people, if you did have seatbelts, you didn't wear them. So there was, even with something that is now compulsory, an adoption phase where people just didn't want anything to do with seatbelts. They thought it was restrictive. They thought, well, what if the car rolls over? And sometimes it's safer if you're thrown from the car. And it's like ridiculous things that now sound completely crazy. Volvo was the first one to bring that to market. They also did the rear-facing child seat. They did side impact protection, airbags. They did whiplash protection. Like, they've done a lot of development work on seats and the safety of seats and stuff. So they have like headrests that will shoot forward in a rear-ending collision to help cradle your head. And then like the inflatable curtain. So a lot of cars now will have like that curtain airbag that will block the side windows. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the B pillar and stuff. So they have a history of innovating things that end up becoming commonplace. And a lot of people at the time kind of thought, well, this is going to be intrusive. It's going to be restrictive. My first thought on this technology is that, well, it's Volvo, so it'll probably be commonplace in 15 years. That being said, this feels like it's creepy.
Yeah, it's super creepy, right?
Yeah. Because it's taking into consideration like people well, I should say it's not taking into consideration variations in human behavior. People might appear drunk or act drunk that are not, and vice versa. People that are drunk might not act as if they were. So how are you going to, take that into consideration?
Yeah, and I just I guess we'll see how it works, but it's like that, like how drunk is drunk. Like I know like buzz driving is drunk driving, and believe me, I'm not condoning anyone drive drunk. Like that's not really the issue here, but like does the makeup of your face allow certain people to be more drunk than others and still out? You know what I mean? Like is this like a strange scale of like, oh, don't worry, like you have really wide eyes, so you're fine. It's not gonna, you know what I mean? It's never gonna think you're drunk. That being said, it's not compulsory. I mean, I don't think people drive Volvo so they can get turned and you know what I mean, take it home from the club. Like especially in this age of Uber and everything. Like no one should be driving drunk anyways. I think that's kind of one of the things that always kind of shocks me is that as a society, like we're so like I don't want to say judgmental because it's kind of justified, but such a negative connotation with drunk driving for obvious reasons. But punitively, we are just like, I don't know, if you got 10 grand, you can get away with it. You know what I mean? Like we kind of we don't enforce it legally in a way that truly discourages it unless you're poor. I know plenty of people that have DUIs and continue to drive home from the bar. You know what I mean? Like, because, like anything else, if you want to really prohibit an activity through laws or whatever, like then the laws need to be strict. If they threw you in jail for 30 days, the first time you drunk drive, no one would drunk drive. You know what I mean? Like, but that being said, this isn't compulsory. Volvos are safe cars. They're obviously trying to be on the forefront of safety, and I think this kind of fits in line with the kind of company we know them to be, and the kind of activity that they participate in. So, it's creepy. It's kind of gross in the way it achieves this, but but it's also like it's kind of in line with that company's motto. You know what I mean?
100%. And the interesting part about it too is it's an admission from a company that clearly has a track record of innovation in engineering safety into their vehicles without accounting for the real cause of incidents in 99% of the cases, which is the person driving, the person behind
absolutely.
the wheel. And obviously that you'd have to take into consideration other cars as well, other people, but they're kind of developing things like in an ideal world, if every car has this, how does road safety look, which is, going back to 1959, making that patent an open patent. But they're spending so much time and energy engineering to make these cars as safe as possible, rollover protection, brake assist, lane departure assist, adaptive cruise control, all this stuff. You can still go 120 miles an hour and jerk the wheel into a bridge embankment or get super wasted and, T-bone somebody in an intersection. Those things you can't engineer out. You can't.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't fix physics.
Like if we were all good at driving and paying attention, we could all drive cars from the 80s or 70s and be completely safe. You know what I mean? It's it's when you get people involved that every car is dangerous.
Absolutely. So this is kind of, to me, an admission of that fact that Volvo's like, look, we can only make these cars so safe. I mean, we could put four wheels on a gigantic pillow and, like somebody's still going to figure out a way to kill themselves in it, or somebody else.
No, absolutely.
And trying to address that fact, I think is, like I said, this is kind of a creepy version of what some future technology is going to be that's going to be commonplace in cars. But I don't like taking, I mean, they're fringe cases probably, but it's just when you just have like, if the car senses you're drunk, I don't like that.
I don't want breathalyzers in every car. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, at least a breathalyzer would be a chemical. I mean, even that, it's like, hey, look, man, I can have 3 beers and, be fine. And that may be the case for you. But some 90-pound, girl that has a half a glass of wine might be, under the blood alcohol level, but, way more impaired. So there's some ambiguity there too. But I think the cameras, the sensor, like, hey, we're noticing that you're acting a little bit goofy. We're going to pull the car over. I don't like an algorithm making that decision.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of this, like, it's funny, like, when I think of would I drive a Volvo like this, it's like, no, but I would definitely buy one for my kid. You know what I mean? Like, like, I would never want this to be my car, but if it was someone I cared about or someone I was responsible for, I would definitely put them behind the wheel of a car like that.
Yeah, I still think this is a stopgap, though, too. I mean, this is a half step away from just fully autonomous cars, and you hit the button and you move into the autonomous lane, and you just wait until your exit, and freeway deaths plummet.
Yeah, I wonder if drunk people will be allowed to drive autonomous cars. Like, because they're not capable of taking.
There's probably going to be different levels.
Yeah, but you won't be capable of taking control, right? So it's like if there needs to be someone that's capable of that to, because that's definitely going to be the rule for a long time. Is that you can have a self-driving car, but you need to be like ready to take control of it at any time. Like you can't sleep in it or any, so like I wonder where we're headed with this. But it's an interesting question. We really don't know.
Yeah, well, even now they have like different levels of autonomy, and there are going to be, there's like an autonomous vehicle that doesn't even have a steering wheel. Like you just basically sit in a box and it takes you to your destination. And I don't know offhand what the names of those levels are, but I think it's like I think it's counting up. I think it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and like 5 being fully autonomous, and maybe even 0 being nothing. So
It's
you
funny.
can have.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
I'm letting you
This
go.
is
You
this
go.
is this is remote tech, yeah.
This is remote tech after dark.
Yeah,
This
so
is,
like
this
so
is
like
bound to happen.
a level 5, you could be completely hammered. You could be blind, and you could jump in your level 5 autonomous car and be fine. But you can have, but if you're in a level 2, you would have to be available to jump in.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, what if, like, you remember we were talking about those trucks with the remote driving,
Yeah,
things,
yeah,
like, what if you ended up having to pay a monthly fee if you wanted to be able to sleep in your car, and like you would have a service where if your car detected something, you would immediately put like a remote access driver in the seat of your car while you didn't even know the difference. You were just drunk and asleep in your driver's seat.
it's like, hey, we got a drunk, we got a swerver.
Yeah, like you would immediately just ping someone in. And they would just be sitting there ready, like, because that was their job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To jump in and drive your car. Oh, that's too
That-
funny.
That is really funny. But it just goes back to the same problem, like it's just you're just removing free will, at every step. This is just removing free will in the pursuit of perfection. A
Yeah.
utopia where nobody dies, where no one has an accident, and which is
Yeah,
a
liberty.
good thing to
Liberty
strive
is not
for.
safety. That's for sure.
No. Yeah, it's a great thing to strive for, but this is going to be the constant conversation is when is it too much? When do we just have to say, "Hey man, like we can, but we're not going to prevent this from happening."
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the whole crux of it, right? Is there constantly needs to be a back and forth between, what amount of liberty we're willing to give up in the name of, public safety and the public good, and what amount of liberty we think is important to retain, just for the sake of individuality, or you know what I mean. And definitely being able to drunk drive is not the hill to die on.
No.
Like not in any
Yeah.
terms.
No.
What was your next story, Bill? I know you had a Facebook
yeah.
sizzler coming at us.
Yes. Perfect segue into Facebook. Whenever we're talking about creepy Big Brother overlords,
Anti-liberty overlord,
Yeah.
totalitarian.
you got to talk about frickin' Zuckerberg, dude. I am sorry, Senator. I will get back to you.
What did he do? What did he do this time?
So this is a story from Wired. Facebook stored millions of passwords in plain text. Change yours now. So this is just the
That's
first.
smart.
The first
That's smart. That's good.
Dude.
Good administration right there.
Awesome security. It's difficult to summarize all of Facebook's privacy misuse and security missteps in one description. It just gets even harder. On Thursday, following a report by Krebs on security, Facebook acknowledged a bug in its password management system that caused hundreds of millions of user passwords for Facebook Lite, which is the kind of like pared down Facebook for third world countries, and Instagram to be stored as plain text in an internal platform to thousands of employees. Okay, yeah, it says right here. Yeah, this means that thousands of Facebook employees could have searched for and found them. Krebs reports that the passwords stretched back to those created in 2012. What the
That's
hell,
crazy.
Facebook, dude?
Yeah, I mean, at least it's only internal, but they have so many effing employees that it's like, who cares if it's internal? Like, it's so crazy because, like we work at a company with a lot of data and a lot of customer info. And like, we're bad at it, and even the idea on our end of having just like a text document with everyone's passwords on it is ludicrous. You know what I
It's
mean? Like it's
freaking crazy.
honestly, like I just had a Google audit, and like our big thing was like one of our unsubscribe links showed your email address in it, like, but it showed it to the person whose email it was, like it wasn't even externally available. And even that was like, we need to encrypt this immediately. Like, this is a big deal. You know, to think that somehow you could, like, oh, yeah, you know, just have the passwords on this text doc. It'll be fine. You know, and like, it's so crazy. Like, it's such a crazy idea that it's just like, how does that happen? Like, why does that document even exist? It's so strange.
How does that happen? I I mean, we've talked about Facebook so much and just how dead it is to at least our generation. No one really uses it. It's basically just turned into a way to make sure, or to assure your family that you're still alive. You know, if there's anything that I want to share with my family, I will, you know, push it to Facebook. And usually it's from Instagram. Like, I'll never actually post directly to Facebook.
Yeah, it's always that second tick on Instagram for like Facebook and Twitter or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Like, I have it just defaulted to Twitter, and then every once in a while I'll post something to Facebook. But the platform is so huge and so strong still, even despite most millennials and under either not knowing what it is or abandoning it. I don't know when it's going to die. Like, how many of these stories need to happen and come out before it's just like, you know, half users or, you know, stop going on it? I don't know when.
It's, you know, I think the thing is, I think this is something we see in, like, not just this type of news, but like, not to get into the politics, but even the political news of the era right now is, it's like, it's not about the stories. It's like, there has to be consequences, right? Like, we have to feel like someone of authority has to bring consequences down for us to feel like it's something to be worried about. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much like I think distrust with the way media is reported these days, that it's like, if it's just a story we're told, we don't think it's anything to think of until it's like, oh, and then there were consequences for it, and then we're like, oh, that's serious. You know what I mean? Like, we could tell stories about them giving up information and being hacked and all these things all day, and I think until someone's like, hey, like, they're breaking the law, like they're being sued or they're being fined, like, no one's going to, or at least, you know, at least the older generation, they're not going to react to what's happening, you know what I mean, until there's that kind of like solid like point of like violation, you know what I mean?
Man, I don't even know if that would do it. It's such an addiction at this point for everybody that even if you're, you know, yes, Facebook's evil. Yes, they have screwed with my data. Yes, they're selling it, but I still want to flip through my feed. You know, it's such a habit now that there needs to be something that breaks that habit. And, you know, like we talked about that dark day when Facebook was down for 13 hours and it wasn't even fully down. But
yeah, I'll never forget.
If you pull the plug on Facebook for 48 hours straight, I mean, people would be going through major withdrawals, but oh my God, at the end of it, you'd be so much happier. And I think a lot less people would come back to it, you know, and monetarily, like if you sue Facebook or you know, throw Zuckerberg in jail or anything, it's still not going, like, people are still going to go back to it. You have, I mean, one, you're going to hit them monetarily, and two, you're going to have people abandon the platform, but that should be the punishment, is for every one of these stories, you're shut down for a day. Like, Facebook is just closed down, you know, you're done.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, I think, what it would take. I think you're right. There would have to be like a disruption, like a 48 hours, they're down all weekend, and then people have to find, you know, everyone installs Line or, you know, something else to like communicate with. I'll be honest, like the biggest reason I use Facebook now is like just Messenger. Like, I just have Messenger groups that have been in existence for, I feel like ever. You know what I mean? And we all just kind
Yeah.
of chat on those or check into those. And I don't even know if I'd have a Facebook account if it wasn't for those things.
Yeah, like I said, I don't really use Messenger a whole lot, but it's basically just it's the forum where my family where I can passively share what's going on with my extended family. Really, I mean, my immediate family, for the most part, knows what's going on, but
Yeah, I mean, your mom's on our Discord. She's pretty
yeah.
hip,
Maria's listening to this right now, so she knows what's
Yeah.
going on. But
She knows what's up in tech, at least. That's for sure.
she's definitely up with tech.
Yeah.
But like extended family, people that you're not talking to all the time, or emailing, there's no email chain or anything. It's nice to be able to have a place where everybody is and you can share something, and all your uncles and cousins and everybody can check it out. But man,
Yeah, especially as you have families and stuff. Like, my sister's got two kids. My brother's got three daughters. Like, you don't want to have to send photos out like to everybody. It's nice to have a place where people can just be like, can see what's up with, the nephews and nieces and the fam, and like it's you can still stay connected in that way.
And there are alternatives to it, which, there's alternatives to everything, but it's just getting everybody on the same one is the tough part. If
So
we
hard.
all decided
Yeah.
to just say, like, as a society, we are all moving, we're bringing back Friendster or whatever. We're going
Yeah.
back to MySpace. Like, everyone would migrate to there, and then that platform would blow up, and the CEO and the board members would get greedy of that company, and they would, sell your data to, huge data mining companies. Like, I don't think Zuckerberg was born evil. I just think he grew into his evilness based off of the power and money that he got from this platform. So it's not like there's going to be an alternative that is pure, that will remain pure.
Yeah,
It's going to be toxic.
I don't think he's inherently evil. I think he's inherently a robot. But I think the evil part is kind of the it's funny. I was talking about this. So the people I hung out with yesterday, we went around town. Like, they all kind of work in video games, right? And like technology. And we were talking about actually Apple, and like they're complaining about like lightning cables, right, for iPhones. And I was just like, they can't get rid of the lightning cable because that would require going into a meeting and saying, we want to get rid of lightning cables. And it's like, well, we generate X amount of revenue in lightning cables a year. How are we going to replace that revenue? Well, we're not going to not replace that revenue. So we're selling lightning cables, right? You know what I mean? It's like, and I think that's just that's that slippery slope in corporations of how it's like, oh, we start doing things that are evil or anti-consumer or mean-spirited simply because, like, there's people employed simply to market and make lightning cables, right? Like, our business runs not on getting smaller, but on getting bigger. And, like, if we need to come up with methods of more income, not shaving off ways to generate income so that people feel better about our business, or we're better, more ethical people. You know what I mean? And I think Facebook's just so deep down that well that it's always going to be nefarious, and especially with what their product is. It's always going to be nefarious the ways
It's
that they
us. Yeah. Their product is us.
Yeah, and if that's their product, the ways to generate income from that are always going to feel bad and always going to seem nefarious. But the one thing I will say is storing passwords in a text document is real bad.
Really stupid.
Real bad.
Really, really stupid. Yeah, just like evolution. Like, evolution doesn't take any steps backwards. They don't. Nothing. These mistakes are not usually walked back from in these companies too often.
Not usually. All right, I don't want to spend too much time beating up on Facebook because they're the worst anyway.
Dude, we could be here all day beating up
we could
on
be here
Facebook.
all day. I feel like we've done so many shows of us being like, man, what the fuck, Facebook?
Yeah,
that it's
Facebook
like hard
sucks.
it's hard to like continue being like, what the fuck, Facebook?
Well, especially because like as we're talking about this, we're probably both browsing Facebook.
Yeah, we're both on Facebook right now. I'm not, thank God, on Facebook, but I have it most of the day. So, so I just want to talk about something real quick, and this kind of ties into a story earlier in the week that we didn't get a chance to talk about. We talked about on the gaming show quite a bit, which is that Google announced that they're having a streaming gaming platform called Google Stadia, and kind of with that in the news, I just saw a story yesterday come out that Apple could be announcing a gaming service at an event on Monday, so tomorrow. This story's from Gizmodo, from Katie Keck. It says Apple's highly anticipated Monday event will likely see an unveiling of Apple's forthcoming TV streaming and subscription news service, but there's a possibility that Apple may also touch on its rumored subscription game service. The game service reported by Cheddar in July, whatever Cheddar is. I guess it's an Apple site.
Yeah, what the hell is Cheddar?
I have no idea.
2 Ds?
Cheddar. Will reportedly focus on building games for its iPhones and iPads and will essentially function as a Netflix for gaming. Bloomberg reported that Apple may discuss the service during its Monday event, but said the company could also hold off until June when it holds Worldwide Developers Conference, citing sources familiar with the company's plan for the service. The company would collect monthly fees and divide up the revenue between developers based on how much time users spent playing their games, one of the people said. Apple is likely to consider paid titles on the App Store and would exclude titles that are free to download but generate revenue via in-app purchases. Apple did not immediately return a request for comment. So, I just think it's interesting, and I think, probably a lot of our listeners, more so than the gaming, really haven't heard as much about these kind of streaming games services, or like the kind of the push, I think, in the technology industry between Alphabet and Apple now. Microsoft's trying to do something similar, of a pure streaming content for everything from movies to music, which we already see, and now with games and mobile games is what Apple's trying to do. So what do you think, Bill? What are we going to do?
I think this is pretty exciting. Have you seen that? I mean, I'm sure you have, but the CNN series on the decades. Have you seen that? It's like, it's on Netflix. It's like the 2000s and the 90s.
Yeah, I didn't know it was CNN, but yeah, I think I watched the 2000s one.
Yeah. CNN is the studio, and it's not their news organization, if I'm correct. I think it's like a different kind of like sub studio within CNN, whatever. So we just watched the first 2 or 3 episodes of the 2000s one, and it was all about TV in the 2000s, which was really, really interesting. A lot of shows that you kind of forget about. You're like, oh my God, like that show was so huge. I completely forgot about that one. They talked about The Wire, The Shield, Lost, Breaking Bad, The Sopranos, 6 Feet Under, like all, just kind of from multi-camera sitcoms to single camera premium shows. And it was interesting to see how the industry and society was kind of being, I don't know, it's kind of complex because certain things were happening at the same time. Like The Big Bang Theory was super popular, Everyone Loves Raymond, and The Sopranos were all kind of at the same time. And those are 2 very different genres that were both very popular at the same time. But it was definitely the beginning of that, like, single camera, no commercial, almost like small movie every week kind of content that was really, really high quality. And it started the high quality entertainment was going from the movies to TV, and people were spending money on HBO subscriptions. They were watching Sex and the City, The Sopranos, 6 Feet Under, Showtime.
Even like ER, like for a network version, was so good.
Yeah, and people, would still sit through commercials, on those ER shows and stuff, and then TiVo came in, and things started to shift because of those DVR devices. But basically, it's been really cool to see the progression from how shows were developed before, And now just the massive amount of content that we have, which means that we have a lot more bad shows out there as well. But you have all of these studios now that have realized that this monthly subscription model is a way to guarantee funding to greenlight a bunch of stuff. And what that means is that all the things that CBS, NBC, the network shows that were passing 20 years ago on, they're getting made. Things are getting made, and we're starting to get a lot. Again, it's a volume game, so there's a lot more crappy stuff out there, but we're getting a lot more really, really good stuff. So Apple coming into this space, they already have a bunch of cash, so they can immediately start investing in stuff, whether it's games or movies, TV shows, whatever. Disney's coming out with their streaming service. Everyone's starting to realize that this is the way to generate content in hopes to, or just have a better chance at that like hit cultural phenomenon show. It's super interesting, and I'm happy that companies are actually making money off of it too, because I don't, just the old way was slowly dying and stifling creativity.
Oh, go ahead. I just think like with the thing that happened with streaming too, like you're saying, is with older shows, like in the 90s, like it's amazing to go back and watch those shows and see how terrible they are. You know what I mean? Like just this kind of formulaic sitcoms and how bad they are. And you realize that, these shows were designed around like these like Nielsen polling and like, these systems that were very unintelligent in the way they collected data and the way they measured success and the way that they could sell ad revenue across those shows. So it was very important to have these like short snippet, like standalone, like you didn't want people to have to like watch a ton of shows to like know what was going on, or, like to have to actually pay attention to the show. Like you want them to be able to have it on while they're eating dinner so you could show them their commercials. And, as we've kind of moved into the streaming thing, and as kind of HBO was smarter, like you were saying in the 2000s about the nature of their shows and not being so forced to ensure that people were like there for the commercial, or, didn't want to like get up, or didn't want to, that the quality was able to come up to such a high level. And I'm excited to see, because, with games, this is something we talked about with the Google thing on the gaming show, was that, with games right now, and especially with a lot of games, like you spend $60 when you buy a game, or if it's a mobile game, maybe you spend $10 on it, right? But the developer of that game knows that you're already kind of financially invested in that game, so they kind of they don't really have to ramp you in a fun way, you know what I mean? And so having that, but the free to play games don't have that, right? So they kind of have this sort of trashy, like kind of network TV feeling, where it's like, I'll keep them, you got to keep them wrapped up. You got to make sure they spend some money, or make sure they stay for the commercial, or they watch the commercial. And by ensuring that revenue through these kind of Netflix 4 type services, it really makes it so it's like, how do we create an experience that's like engaging and fun? Like how do we display this product in the way we want to, that we think is going to be the most enjoyable, as opposed to how do we display this product in the way that is the most monetarily viable, or the way that will generate the most income, or allow us to sell the most ads, which I think is exciting.
Yeah, like one of the things that documentary was saying in the 2000s about HBO is that they weren't making a show for everybody. They were making a show for a specific person, like a narrower person. Like Sex and the City was not for everybody, but the particular people that show was made for loved it. And that made them come back to HBO, year after year, to make sure they don't miss that show for them. And who's
your girl at Sex and the City? I want to know.
Dude, Charlotte, dude, of course.
Me too. And people are always hating on Charlotte, bro. She was she was a straight fox.
Dude, she was a cutie.
Yeah, she was such a cutie. All right, go ahead. Sorry. Sorry for the interstitial. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And I hope that's the same way that games start going too, because a lot of the AAA games that have happened, or that have come out, in the recent, last couple years at least, have just been bland. There's nothing. They're trying, because it's getting so competitive and fewer games are getting made. Like Ubisoft is a good example. Like, they've got some really cool IPs, and when Assassin's Creed first came out, when some of the Tom Clancy games first came out, like, those were really innovative, really interesting, cool games, unique gameplay, unique stories being told. And now they're just like, I got Wildlands, and it's just an empty wasteland of nothing. It's like, go here and kill this guy, and I just get bored immediately. But if there was, 15 other games to choose from that are kind of equally of the same, or, on equal quality levels, to pick from, one of those 15 might be just like my perfect game. And like, okay, now I have to come back to this service next year. But now I'm just like, I'm not going to buy another Assassin's Creed game. They're not going to do it for me, or I'm not going to buy the next, Tom Clancy, permutation or whatever. And
don't even talk about it. You love Siege, bro.
Siege is awesome, but that's that's a diamond in the rough kind of thing, where they found a different formula and it worked, and and what's kind of weird is that no one copied it, and they haven't come out with a second one yet.
Yeah, I think the thing with that game is it takes so much work to get a game like that. I mean, they've been working on that game for 5 years now. It just take like as a live game, it just takes so much work to get a game like that into a place that makes sense and it balanced and it's playable. Like the game was really bad when it came out because it's just so much stuff. But I think to what you were saying, like, I do tend to agree. I mean, I think there are, I'm not as pessimistic about the games that are out now, but I do agree that they are trying to cater to a larger audience. I think it's funny, a game like Red Dead 2, like, I don't know if you enjoyed that or not, but, that game kind of caught a lot of gruff for not being, a lot of people loved it, but a lot of people kind of didn't like it as much as the first or had negative things to say about it because it is very much like like the Sopranos style game. You know what I mean? It's very much a story driven game that is not made for everyone. You know what I mean? Like, there's a specific audience for that game, and just by being that way, it turned a lot of people off. But that kind of game in a subscription style service would be so more strong, right? Like if you weren't paying extra for it and you just stumbled into a game like that really spoke to you, it could really be powerful, right? As a tool. I think it still is powerful. I think it's still a great game and was celebrated.
Rockstar's the HBO. Yeah, Rockstar is the HBO of video games for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I do agree. I mean, I think a lot of these games, even ones that were very well regarded or popular lately, haven't really spoken to me in that way because, like you said, they're not always. They're trying to be written for a large audience. You know what I mean? You gotta capture as much as you can in this era with the cost of games. Games costing $100 to $200 million to make. You really do need to get wide adoption to justify the cost of some of these AAA titles. And, I would hopefully a subscription service like that could turn that down a little bit. My only concern is that our infrastructure is not in the place to support that right now. When we have data caps and you know what I mean. But it's getting there. I'd say we're really 10 years away from games being able to be on a Netflix style service, just because games require so much more data than streaming video does.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got your PS4, your Xbox, or your PC plugged in, hardline into the internet, in those cases it's going to be fine. A lot of people are gaming mobile now, which has constraints, but it's close. I just like the games that have come out recently. They're like you said before, companies are not going to decide to make less money. They need to make more than the last one made. And the only way to do that is to gain more customers. And the only way to do that is to have a broader appeal.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I
like
think what's
our,
exciting about these like subscription services is, or at least with what Google was talking about doing. So what if you don't know, like we've been talking about this for 10 minutes, but Google wants to offer a game streaming service, so you don't download the games at all. And I just think Apple's probably going to be trying to do something similar, where as opposed to storing all these games on your computer or your phone and having to install things and update them all the time, you'd pay a flat fee. You'd have access to a library of games that would be remotely sent to you, right? Like you could play them via the cloud, right? And I think you don't have to buy a specific piece of hardware to run it. You don't have to buy a PlayStation. You don't have to buy an Xbox. And I think what's exciting about that, because of like what you're saying, is it creates a customer base. It makes everyone your customer now, right? Like they don't have to buy a PS4 to be in your ecosystem, right? Like your mom might watch a YouTube video, and someone might say, oh, I love this puzzle game, or because it makes me feel smart, or you know what I mean, like it's good for me, or it's a lot of fun, or it makes me happy, and can immediately start playing that game via one of these streaming services without downloading it, without buying a gaming console, using their existing hardware, and then that monetization method within that can be decided, if it's a monthly fee, if it's a in-game purchase, whatever it is. And I just think that's exciting, and that is a way to expand these things and be able to make niche games that still have a wide audience appeal, because at this point now, all Apple users are your audience, or all Google users are your audience, as opposed to the 40 million people that own a PlayStation, or the 20 million people that own a gaming PC. You know what I mean? Now it's the billion people that have an Apple account or a Google account.
Yeah, well, it's just, I mean, they're looking at the business model and the trends and everything, and they're just doing the math. I mean, like, what's like a good niche kind of cult game that's come out in the last couple of years that was good but didn't sell a bunch?
I would say, okay, I think the best example is, because it's a game everyone's heard of but not a lot of people buy, is like the Metroid series of games, right, that Nintendo makes. That game actually, like, they actually weren't going to make them because Japan hates those games and they don't sell that many in the United States. But everyone likes it because it's like a retro franchise. You know what I mean? Like, there's another one supposed to come out. It's totally troubled because they just don't like them in Japan. Like, people just don't buy those games, right? Or like Zelda games is kind of a similar thing.
Yeah, so just take Metroid. Like, if Metroid is kind of like a niche game, it's kind of cult. The people that like it love it. But if it's a $60 game and 1 million people buy the game, that's $60 million. The only way to get more money for the next release is for more people to play and like that game. Now, if you're only selling to the people that like that game and that number isn't growing, it's not shrinking, you're going to make another $60 million. And like we've talked about, if it's not plus, it's negative, and you're not going to get greenlit the next time. Now,
yeah, it's not getting cheaper to make it. That's for sure.
No, well, that's even a better point. It's going to be more expensive next time, and you're gonna make the same amount of money. Now, if instead of selling a $60 game to 1 million people, let's say you have a streaming service and you sell a $10 subscription to 15 million people, and so that's $120 a month to 15 million people. You can make a lot more different games, and you're up in the billions of dollars. So now you've got some headroom, and you can, greenlight some weird passion project by somebody, and, you can be known, start building the brand of having all of these different IPs for everybody. And then that 15 million grows to 20 million, and then 25, and then 30. And now you're making just crazy money. And that's what, I think the Netflix model was originally is, you can rent a movie on the internet or on your cable TV or something, but what if you just had a flat fee and you can watch as much as you want? You're only going to watch so much, so it's not like you're putting an extra
it gives these things a shelf life too, you know what I mean? Like, right now with games, a lot of times people don't buy them after their initial release window, right? Because it's like you want to be kind of part of a conversation. If you're gonna spend $60 on a game, you want to be part of like, the conversation socially or on Facebook or with your friends, or you know what I mean. You guys all want to kind of play it at the same time. Whereas if it is a subscription service, you can kind of just decide like, hey, like this Metroid game's on the service. Let's try it this week, or you know what I mean. Or hey, did you try this one yet? Like I saw it on whatever Game Flicks. You know what I mean? Like let's give it a shot. And since you're already signed up, there's no barrier to entry to get into that,
No, and like word of mouth and reviews become less of a thing because, I mean, even to this day, I mean, I still watch game reviews now, if I'm kind of on the fence on it. If it didn't matter, like if it was just ready to play and all I had to do is try it, I wouldn't watch game reviews anymore. I wouldn't care what the Metacritic score was or what IGN thought about it. I'd just go play it. Because there's been so many times where a game review has been really good and I hated it, and the other, where it's been bad and I loved it. So, and I still
more like
have to go back to that.
More like that social buzz that would kind of get you to try things, right? Where like somebody be like, "Hey, did you try this yet?" And you just be like, "No," and they'd be like, "Try it," and then you do. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how it is with Netflix, right? Is someone mentions a show and it's like, you need to watch this, and then you try it.
And there's you just go like, yeah, all right, I'll give it a shot. And you watch one episode and you're like, yeah, it wasn't really for me, and it's like, it's no big deal. You didn't spend $60 in the game, and trade it back to GameStop for $12.
Yeah, no one had to bring you like a copy to watch, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I'm just gonna pop this in and try it, and Metroid isn't for me. Let's move, let's go back to Red Dead, and it's no big deal. That's what gaming is going to be 10 years from now. 100%. That's what it's going to be.
Yeah. So I think the message of this episode is the future's going to be crazy, man.
Yeah, support streaming services.
Yeah, the future is going to be wacky, man. Your car's going to tell you you're too drunk, and you're going to stream all your games. So
the future is going to be a fucked up thing, man.
It is to be a fucked up thing. Bill, thank you so much for joining me this late night Tech episode.
This was a good Tech a little bit fueled by the grape, a little bit.
You got to get a little of that vino going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But and everyone out there, I really appreciate you guys listening and hanging out with us for a bit, and expect to see an after show early in the week here. Me and Bill got to get down to the studio. Yeah, I hope
everybody learned something. Okay, so here's what I want to ask our TYPs.
The TYPs out there.
Yeah, join our Discord. We'll have the links available for that someplace. You'll find it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have them. They're on Facebook, Twitter, Tech
cool.
Podcast, and they're going to be on the YouTube version of this video. So if worst case scenario, just YouTube this episode, you can find it.
Okay, cool. So there's I guess 4 then methods of this. So you've got the YouTube comment section, you've got Facebook comment section. You could retweet us or comment back, or you can email us at techyapodcast@gmail.com. But we need from you 2 pieces of information: the month that you were born and the date. So mine is February 8. So just send us that in any one of those platforms, and we will give you a shout out for an upcoming little experiment that we've.
It's the fun thing. Don't worry, it's not going to be creepy. Yeah. He just said creepy. This, and I know what he's thinking right now, and it's fun, not creepy. And so, please, if you could share with us just the month and day. You don't have to tell us the year, how old you are.
Don't tell us the year. Yep, just the month and day.
You don't even give us your real name. It could be like, I'm Chico 47, and my birthday is, April 17th. And that is plenty. And we're gonna play.
Yeah, we're gonna play a little game called Florida Man.
Now people are gonna know what it is. All right.
Well, no one knows what that is.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Plenty of people do. Plenty of people do. For those of you that do know, we'll play it live with you. For those of you that don't know, send us your month and your date, and we will play Florida Man, and you'll see how amazing it is.
Yeah, and we appreciate it. We appreciate you guys listening. Bottom line, even if you don't want to play Florida Man with us, thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you guys for listening. We love you all.
Love you guys.
Bye.